Testing, testing, testing. This is a recording of Mr. Cooper, Miss Cooper. As you can imagine, I'm Mr. Cooper, and this is
Mrs. Cooper.
Yeah. I'm extremely excited to be here with my wife. I'm extremely excited to get a chance to talk to you guys about marriage, some of our experiences, some of the things that we've learned, and that we want to share with some of you who are young couples. Scooby, you want to tell everybody how long we've been together?
As of August 22nd, we have been married for 22 years.
Wow. And
Long time.
you want to tell them about our kids and how many kids we have and that kind of stuff?
So we have 4 children. Our oldest is Imani, who is 23. Then there's India, who is 21. Ilana, who is 18, and our one and only son, Isaiah, who is 11 years old.
And in case you guys missed that, that's 3 girls and 1 young man.
Right.
So we went girl, 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 before the Lord blessed us
With the boy.
with a young man.
Mm-hmm.
So baby, let me ask you something. Having a son, what is one of the things about having a son that has shocked you?
That's a good question. What has shocked me about having a son? I would have to say, I don't know, the different phases that I'm seeing him go through that the girls didn't necessarily go through. I don't want to be graphic, so I'll just say that.
I know where you're coming
Just
from.
some male things that I knew to expect, but was a little caught off guard by, which is why it's a blessing to have you here to help guide your son through these different stages in his development. So.
Yeah, the two of us know exactly what my wife's talking about, but we won't go there tonight. We call Isaiah our agreement kid. We had the girls, and my wife had this undying belief that she was gonna have a son, and she willed that young man here with my help, with my help that I didn't mind offering. And it's been exciting. I think the one thing that I didn't consider when it came to being a father of a son, I felt like I understood being a father of daughters as well, because I was always the protective type.
Right.
But with girls, it's easy to protect. With boys, you have to teach them how to be a man. That means you have to demonstrate it. And so demonstration sometimes, you really have to be conscious of what you are doing. So I know for me, I'm always left wanting to figure out ways to demonstrate a little bit better in front of the son, so that he can be, quality young man.
Right.
What do you think is one of the greatest lessons you learned about having girls?
Just understanding that they are more emotional, and I've learned that, first of all, they're all unique in their own way. Even Isaiah, none of them are the same. They all have their own unique personalities. And if anything, I learned not to discipline them the same, that they all require a different type of discipline. So if anything, I think that's a big thing that I've learned, because that's helped me to try to be a better mother, if I look at each of them as an individual, not group them all together. So.
Interesting. So I want to tell one of when I think about funny stories about pregnancy. So I have this one story I want to tell you guys about. When he was pregnant with Imani, one of the things I remember most was I don't know if it's a nurse. I think it was a nurse. I don't quite know their role, but they come in and they add the was it Demerol
It was
to
a nurse.
it
Yeah.
was a nurse. They add Demerol to the
Through my
IV. And what the lady says, we can tell if a person was a drinker or did any alcohol based on how much Demerol we have to give them. And so I don't know if they gave you like a whole thing of Demerol, but just a little bit of it, and they can say, "Yep, she's not a drinker." And I remember laughing at Wendy, asking her name. She couldn't remember her name. I was the wrong person leaving the room that day, but I learned a lot. The amount of stress you had to put your body through to be a mother, and I've learned to respect that process. And having watched you go through 4 births, and they all were different. Do you want to tell people a little bit about the different deliveries you had?
I mean, obviously the first one was pretty easy, actually. All the labors were short, which was a blessing. Yes, the Demerol incident or situation, there was not a lot of the medication that was used. And yes, you could tell that I was not a drinker. um, and that was with Imani. With India, I once again had the Demerol through my IV. I could tolerate it a little better with that pregnancy. However, with Ilana, the contractions were very, very intense. And unfortunately, 2 rounds of Demerol didn't work. I had to end up having an epidural with Ilana. And even after having that epidural, I could still feel the pressure from the contractions. So that's how intense they were. And with Isaiah, I was scheduled to have a regular delivery about a week out from my due date. I had asked my OBGYN to perform another ultrasound in her office at this particular appointment. And she looked at her chart and said, well, it wasn't that long ago that you had another ultrasound. And she said, I don't think he's grown that much, but just to appease you, I'll do it, because at that time I felt like he was extremely heavy. I think that whole pregnancy, I felt like I was carrying around a watermelon the entire time. Could barely walk at that point. So she performed the ultrasound in her office, and when she was done, she looked at my husband and myself and asked, do you want to know how much he weighs? And she pretty much put the fear of God in me based on the expression on her face. And I nervously asked, do I want to know? And she said, we're showing 10 pounds. So that appointment changed everything. She indicated that I would need to have a C-section, and it would need to happen the next morning, that I would need to arrive at the hospital at 5:30 for a 7:30 C-section. So I went from just my weekly appointment, I was a week out from my due date, to you're going to have a C-section, because her concern was my son's shoulders were so broad that she was concerned about what's called shoulder dystocia, where the shoulders could have, his shoulders could have been lodged in the birth canal had I tried to deliver him vaginally. So that was that was a scary situation, considering I had never had a C-section. So I really, I had seen videos in the past, but still, when you've never experienced something like that, you don't know really what to expect, because everyone's situations are so different. But I was, I had the C-section, everything went fine. And when he was born, yes, he was about 9 pounds, 14 ounces. So she was pretty on it in terms of his size. So I was just really grateful in that situation that I listened, because I was still kind of pretty much still set on trying to have a just a regular birth. But when I got to the hospital and the nurse checked me and to see how far along I had dilated, she basically said he's pretty up high. He hasn't even really dropped yet. Sorry, honey, but you're having a C-section. I was like, great, okay. So, but it was a blessing, and I was able to deliver this beautiful, healthy baby boy, and I knew at that point that was our last. Yep, 4 children, and that's it.
Wow. And you guys take a look at the bottom, you're going to see a picture of Wendy and this big baby boy when we knew it was time. He was a big one. Well, that's 10 minutes with the Coopers. We hope you guys enjoy it. Come back and see us again soon.